Deborah Nakamura, and you're watching Heart of Japan. We got some cabbage yesterday from our garden, and I went online to a site that I just found called Whippoorwill Holler and found a really easy looking sauerkraut recipe. These cabbages we're also going to try to use. They were taken a few days ago. I had them wrapped and in the refrigerator. The disclaimer is I've never done it before. And one thing that I want to point out is we're not using the standard canning jars as you would see in the United States. We determined last year that it was not cost effective for us to import these, not to mention the size. We have 2 pans. We're not set up with water bath canning pans yet. This is my pressure cooker pan, not a pressure canner. Haven't got one of those yet either. Don't have the tools, so we're really running a low budget to do this canning. But as you can see, the almost quart-sized Japanese jars do not fit in this pan, and neither do they fit in this pan. You're recommended to have at least 1 to 2 inches of water above the pan. And so the only way we can can today is with the small pint-like jars, Japanese style. Japanese jars have the lid and rim together in one, as you can see. There's the rubberized part and then the rim is attached. We used these last year to make some type of pickle relish and other things that you can do in a water bath canner, and it worked out really well. So we're going to do them again. It's just they don't make a large popping noise like you can hear this when something is canned correctly, so that's a little uneasy. And in some directions they're told to put them upside down. Well, we found out we really don't have to do that. They still seal very well. I can hardly get them off about a year later. So you can do long-term canning with the Japanese jars. So we're gonna get started. I'm cutting the cabbage now, and my skills at cutting are not perfect, so I decided to use the food processor with this attachment, and it seems to be working really well. So we're gonna finish up the cabbage, and we've got about 12 pint jars we estimate that we'll use today, and it's boiling to sterilize them now. I'm continuing to shred the cabbage. Sauerkraut is so healthy for you. It's one of the probiotic foods that give you good gut health. It's not a typical product of Japan. I think Japanese people would be more apt to eat kimchi, a native product of neighboring Korea, than they would sauerkraut, which I believe originally comes from Germany. But Americans have long eaten sauerkraut. They're good on hot dogs, and sauerkraut is good with sausage. So we have had really good luck this year with cabbage, but sometimes we have to look at it closely because there's some brown spots that I don't want to add into this sauerkraut. I'd rather make sure that everything is free of any imperfections in this. My second time in my life. Last year was the first for canning, and we don't have the proper tools yet. So as you can see, I've just got some kitchen tongs. It's better to have jar tongs that are canning tongs because this is very hot and you could burn or injure yourself. But for today, until we purchase those things, this is what it is. So these are sterilized jars, and I'm going to put another batch into the water. So I've sterilized all of these jars, and we've cut up 1 head of cabbage. So we're going to attempt to fill, because my pan will only accommodate 4 jars at a time. We're going to attempt to fill 4 of them right now. And we're going to fill the jars to about where the neck begins with cabbage. After that, we have to fill it with hot water, which is boiling right now. Then we have to add a teaspoon of vinegar, a teaspoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of salt. Because we shop at Costco, we're using the Kirkland brand sea salt. Some people prefer to use canning pickling salt, but I don't think it makes a difference that much. At least for a first timer, it's not going to make a difference to me. We're using cane sugar, and we're using white vinegar. Now that was recommended in the original recipe. The teaspoon that we're using is a quart-sized in Japanese. So let's do it. Let's see if this works. Isn't this going to be wonderful? Sauerkraut! Homemade from cabbages that we grew in our garden. First year to be so successful with cabbages. Well, this is only our second year of gardening, so we can't really complain. So here we have it pushed down. And I happen to think we're going to be using hot water, so I'm going to put some protection under these jars. I forgot to mention that these, after they've been processed, they're processed in a water bath canner for 20 minutes. Then you put them on the shelf for 4 months. After 4 months, you can eat your sauerkraut. So we're going to first add 1 teaspoon of salt. Once you pour the hot water on, it will cause these things to go right down and permeate sauerkraut. This is a teaspoon of sugar. We're using cane sugar. And a teaspoon of vinegar. I'm using white vinegar. Now we're going to add the water. We filled these till the neck, but it's recommended that the water does not fill up any higher than this area. The cabbage should never reach the lid. And you just fill it up as it bubbles on in and out. Then we're going to debubble it. Now I don't have the tools for debubbling it, but I'm going to use a spatula. I think from what I've seen of the debubblers, it's a close match. Isn't that pretty? It turns extra green with the hot water. Love that mint green. I'm a fan of mint chocolate ice cream. So if you want to come and visit me and bring a present, mint chocolate ice cream. Yay! Here's my spatula. So you just go around the edge of the jar and make sure there's no air bubbles that would mess up your canning. I'm sure a debubbler is a better tool, so we're going to invest in those soon. Here's the paper towel with vinegar, and I'm going to wipe off the rim to make sure no food would come between the rim and the seal of the lid. So I don't know so much about this, but I'm just putting them on finger tight. Uh-oh, that didn't work. Yes, definitely we're going to have to invest in tools. I don't know. Lost my tong part in the boiling thing. Owie, owie. You don't want to get burned. No, no, no. I'm really pushing it today. Oh dear, it's overflowed. We overestimated the amount of water. Now that my induction range is automatically shut off because we flooded it, this may take a while. Now let me mop up the water around the range so it'll come back on for me. So our first batch is done. It's hot. And I've learned a few things. Number one, you want to have some good canning tools. It's a little bit dangerous for getting burns and spills all over your kitchen stove. Yeah. So you want the jar tongs. A debubbler is also good, and you want the water bath canner. Those are some things we're going to invest in because it takes a lot of work just to do 4 at a time when you have a lot of things to process. So you want to have a canner that can process some more. You want enough space in the top so that it has room to cover the jars 1 to 2 inches, and also boiling room so it doesn't get all over your stove and shut your stove down. Yeah. But I'm pretty satisfied with this first batch of sauerkraut.